So you're thinking about buying your first or your next investment property in Florida. Here are some things you need to know.
So number one, what type of loan are you looking to get? There's something called a DSCR loan, and typically the rents that you earn on a monthly basis on that rental have to equal your outflow expenses. And as long as that is true and you meet the down payment requirements, then you can qualify for that DSCR loan. Typically, your down payment requirement will be somewhere between 25 to 30%, and you have to have sufficient funds and reserves. Sometimes it's 6 months, could be 12 months, could be 24 months. It depends, but that is a great investment loan type. Now, one thing to understand about investment type of loans, the interest rate is going to be higher than a primary residence. Why? Because it's not your primary residence, it's an investment property, and a bank sees that as higher risk. So naturally, that rate is going to be higher, so you want to make sure that you calculate everything to ensure that you're cash flowing or at least meeting your goals. Now, there are some great benefits to owning an investment property based on some specific tax statuses where you can offset some of the expenses incurred on that rental property off of your earnings, and as a result, it offsets your income.
So tell me, Hector, what kind of property types would you recommend for someone looking for an investment property?
It's a great question. So generally speaking, a single family home or a townhome would be good options, and that's because they're fee simple. You own the land that the property sits on, and therefore there are HOA requirements in municipal rules. We'll get into that later. Those are generally some of the better investment options. Again, you have to consider what the property taxes will be in the future after your purchase and the property gets reassessed. What are your insurance payments and your mortgage payments? And are you able to achieve the goals that you're looking at achieving based on that property type?
So with your new investment property, are you looking to do a short-term or a long-term rental? Based off that, you'd be looking at different regulation and zoning laws that could apply.
Now, what that means is some properties, and this is where you really have to take things or put things into perspective. If you buy a condo that has a 2-year wait before you rent the property, and there's a whole other issue with condos as well that we won't get into in this video, but we will in a future video, then what are you going to do with that property? Is it going to sit vacant for 2 years before you can rent it? Is there a rental wait list? Sometimes there's a wait list for 2, 3, 4 years because you have many people who want to rent a property, but they can't because there's a certain cap amount that the HOA or the homeowners association implements to keep more property owners in their properties or get them to sell the property so that you don't have a ton of renters and then the neighborhood tends to degrade a bit. When you look at some of those zoning and municipal laws, typically if you're going to do a short-term rental like an Airbnb, you want to look at unincorporated areas. A lot of incorporated areas, unless they're zoned for condo hotels, they may have some restrictions where you have to lease the property for a full year. You can't lease it for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, or sometimes it's a month. It all depends. So this is where an experienced agent really helps you navigate through what works, what doesn't work, based on your investment objectives.
So Hector, you've purchased your first investment property. Would you say a property manager would be necessary?
It depends. Now, if you do a short-term rental like an Airbnb, that is very, very involved. A property manager in that situation is strongly recommended. They do charge a lot more for property management. We don't do Airbnb property management, but we do know some folks who do, and it gets very, very pricey. Why? Because they have to coordinate the cleanings after every stay. And let's say a stay is 2 days, you have to refill the soap, you have to refill the shampoos, you have to clean, you have to bleach to make sure you keep up with the current regulations, because remember COVID went around a few years ago, so things are a little bit stricter now. Now, if you do a long-term rental, sometimes you might be okay with it. Other times you may prefer to have a property manager. I personally prefer to have a property manager. And the reason for it is because you constantly have to get people out there to give you bid proposals on things that break. You constantly have to account for outflows and inflows of cash coming in. Make sure you maintain all of your income and expenses for your tax returns. When you have a property manager, they take care of all those items. So all you do is you provide the documentation to your CPA and they take it from there. So property management is a great option for those who are looking to purchase it first, or if they're on multiple investment properties. Sometimes you can get a property management deal if that property manager actually manages all of the properties. We do long-term property management, and that is one of the things that we would recommend if you are looking to invest in a property.
What are some ways that we can tell a property is going to be a great investment for you?
So the first thing that we look at is what is your return on investment? Now, are you paying cash? Are you putting a significant amount of money down? Because there is a difference between a cap rate and cash flow. So you could have a favorable cash rate but not have a lot of cash flow because interest rates are so high, and you have a debt service. Debt service means you have a loan. When you're looking at an investment, you're looking at what is your income from that property compared to your expenses. And then you have to consider that loan. If that loan payment is too much and you're going to have negative cash flow on a monthly basis, it may not necessarily be the investment for you. But there are other options too. Is it better to flip a couple of properties so that then you could qualify for some of the tax benefits of a long-term rental or even a short-term rental? You can do a cost-seg study sometimes on maybe 1 or 2 properties, as long as you have a short-term rental, because that's very involved. You have to meet our requirements in real estate. As a real estate professional, it's very easy to get there, but other folks who maybe just acquire some real estate, you might take a few properties in order to qualify for those type of deductions. But you definitely have a lot of options, and we can help you analyze your return on investment or cash flow or your cap rate.
We appreciate you all for joining us for this week's Yellow Chair Chat. We're ready to hear your comments, concerns, or questions in the comments below. Please feel free to also reach out to us if you have any real estate needs. Our contact info is going to be below.
And even if you are considering a property now and just want us to take a quick look at it, we'd be happy to do that free of charge. And we'll let you know whether we think it's a sound investment, whether it's an area of high growth, what is the price trends in the area, do we see inventory increasing? Typically, when you see the absorption rate exceeding new listings, then you have a favorable price trend, and vice versa. We appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you next week.